Okay, good morning. Thank you all for registering for the first in a series of webinars for the Indian Energy Minerals Forum. My name is Michelle Littlefield. I'm a program coordinator with the USEA Consensus Program. And just a little bit about our program, formally named the Building Consensus on Carbon Capture, Utilization and Storage, and Clean Coal Technologies, Consensus for short. This is a cooperative agreement with the Department of Energy, Fossil Energy. The program educates the public, policymakers, industry, and stakeholders on CCUS and clean coal technologies by hosting webinars, along with a series of monthly educational briefings, conference workshops, technical reports, and we release monthly news clips of CCUS and clean coal technologies, related updates as well. If you would like to join our mailing list, if you have not done so already, feel free to send me an email at the email address at the bottom of the screen, and I will add you to our subscriber list. So our program today is in partnership with the Sagebrush Hill Group, a finance, banking, economic development, and gaming advisory acquisition and development company based in Window Rock, Arizona on the Navajo Nation, with President Derek Watchman as our moderator, and Steve Gray will present the closing remarks. Thank you both for your valuable help in making this forum possible. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And with that, I will hand it over to Derek.
Of the country. As Michelle said, I'm Derek Watchman, and along with Steve Gray, we're here to host and moderate what we're calling the Indian Energy Minerals Forum. And so we have three great speakers, and of course, we're going to have a hello from the Department of Energy. But just a little bit of background. During the Reservation Economic Summit 2020 in Las Vegas this past March, we put together what we're calling the Indian Energy Minerals Forum. And so basically what the focus is, how do we look at tribes and partnering with industry and partnering with the Department of Energy to look at the development and use of Indian energy minerals. And so this effort stems from a lot of discussion over the last couple of years about utilizing resources that many tribes have at their disposal. And so this effort obviously is in conjunction with a lot of work that's happening on the energy efficiency and renewable energy side. And so, but there's many tribes out there that still have valuable resources, and they're looking at ways to, given the environmental conditions and environmental standards, looking at ways of monetizing their resources. And so at the end of the day, basically, tribes are looking at ways of monetizing their resources so that they can keep the jobs going and provide revenue to their tribal coffers. And so today we have three great speakers, and I'll get to them in a minute here. But we're going to present to you, what we believe is some interesting thoughts and interesting data points that exist in Indian country. And so converging and bringing the three different parties together, we believe, and that's tribes, industry, and the government is essential and important, so that when we look at energy development, energy security, energy jobs, energy revenue, all this combined, we feel from Sagebrush Hill Group is a way to go for tribes as they move forward. And so the future is unknown, as we all know, and so it's always best to plan for the future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joe Giove, and Joe is the Director of Coal Business Operations in the Fossil Energy Department with the Department of Energy. And so Joe is going to give us a hello from the Department of Energy. And so welcome, Joe, and the floor is yours.
I'm the Director of Coal Business Operations in the Office of Clean Coal and Carbon Management. That is a sub-office of the Office of Fossil Energy in the United States Department of Energy here in Washington, D.C. Good afternoon to you from the East Coast. Good morning to you on the West Coast. It is the Office of Clean Coal and Carbon Management that is funding this event today through our good friends at the United States Energy Association, and we'll be funding others as well. This is the first in a series. I'm going to keep my comments extremely short because I didn't really come here to speak. I came to listen. We have several other folks from the Office of Clean Coal here today listening in as well, and they're also here to listen. The United States Department of Energy and the Trump administration cares very deeply about what's going on in our sovereign nations. That care pertains to all of the things going on in society. Obviously, I work for the Department of Energy, and so my area of expertise is energy, and we care very deeply about the energy issues. But we also care about all the issues affecting tribal lands. This includes healthcare, includes economies, employment, education, rights, and certainly with the COVID crisis going on, we care very deeply about how that's affecting your citizens. Over the past few months, I've heard a number of stories that are just heartbreaking. So it's of deep concern to us how COVID is impacting your societies. Several sovereign nations, of course, as you know, are blessed with coal, oil, natural gas, and mineral resources that are in close proximity to rail, possible port options that could be developed, and other transportation infrastructure, and of course, possible carbon capture and storage resources as well. So Native American tribal lands really do hold tremendous promise for energy abundance, and that's really going to be needed to continue to spur economic development and produce the kinds of high-paying, sustainable jobs that benefit society and fuel our prosperity. I did want to note that this webinar and those that follow are continuing a dialogue that we began last fall in Moab at the Western States Energy Forum, where we had a real sizable delegation from several tribal sovereign nations. They gave us a great rundown of some of the issues. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend it, but I understand that discussion was also continued at RES 2020 in Las Vegas. Before I conclude, I did want to mention that we have been working on a few special coal-related items directly with some of the sovereign nations. One of them is a series of regional mineral assessments to determine the scope and availability of various minerals. The second, we funded some assessments of the potential for geologic storage of CO2. So these geological assessments are trying to figure out the suitability of geology in some of the tribal regions. And lastly, we paid and funded several pre-FEED CCUS studies to determine the feasibility of possibly conducting some projects on Indian lands. And those are just a few. I'm sure some of the speakers could come up with additional areas where we're partnering as well. All that to say that we're not launching something new. We're already working with you. We've been working with you, and we certainly want to know how we can work with you to a greater extent in the future. So I just want to say thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today. We have a fantastic set of speakers who I'm really looking forward to listening to and learning from. And so with that, I'll just turn it back over to my good friend Derek, who's going to moderate the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
And well, thank you, Joe. And we certainly appreciate the Department of Energy's support and assistance. And so for me, just, my background, I used to be, along with Steve Gray, a former Tribal Indian Affairs Director with the Department of Energy. And so I know firsthand that not only your department, but many other departments within the Department of Energy has a lot of resources and staff. And so that lends into pretty much, the whole purpose of the Indian Energy Minerals Forum is how do we connect all the different players so that we can achieve growth and prosperity in primarily Indian country. And so there's a lot of resources in many cases that I know that are untapped, from the federal agencies, including the Department of Energy. And so as you said, Joe, last year there was discussions primarily on coal. Many tribes got together and said, well, how can we discuss this as candid as possible, bringing in the different players to see what the possibilities are, and so I think many of us know a lot of the challenges that go into any project of any magnitude in any country. And so and in many cases, it takes a lot of talent, a lot of capacity to bring projects to fruition. And so today, though, today's focus is to step back a little bit and look at what's available in any country, Two, what are some perspectives and what are some of the shining examples, if you will, and what's happening on the tribal side. And then, of course, on the energy side, the private side, what are the possibilities there? And so I'm going to move into our next speaker, and that is Stephen Manydeeds, and he is the chief for the Division of Energy and Minerals Development with the U.S. Department of Interior, and he's the assistant, well, actually, he reports to the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs. And so Steve has many functions. So I was looking at your background here, and so you have a lot of responsibility. And so obviously it's in favor of getting development going in Indian country. And so Steve Manydeeds will have a great presentation here. So I want to introduce Steve Manydeeds, Chief of the Division of Energy and Minerals Development. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And again, I want to thank you once more for giving me this opportunity to present this information to you and to everybody out there. Let me queue up my presentation here. And we'll start. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to talk primarily now about oil and gas on Indian lands, although our office handles a lot of different things. Okay. So, oops, if I can go that and just go next. First off, we're not actually underneath the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We're actually underneath the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. The reason why this was put in, this is an old one, Mike Black acting, that's an old one. I pulled it off. That's my fault. But we're in 2004, we were pulled from the Bureau of Indian Affairs and moved over to the Assistant Secretaries underneath the Assistant Secretary, recognizing how important Indian energy and economic development is to Indian lands. And so we really are there with our sister divisions, economic development and capital investment. Capital investment, it houses the guaranteed loan program, which if you work in Indian country, you should be familiar with. Our job, very simply, is to provide the best technical economic advice to tribes asking for our assistance. In essence, we are your consultants. Okay, you don't have to pay us for anything. This is our job. And if you want help with anything related to energy and minerals, we're more than happy to go out there and talk with you and work with you and how to attain your goals. Okay, and this basically is the law. I'm a federal guy, so I got to throw up some laws here. And the 82 Act, Mineral 82 Act, states that the Secretary of Interior shall provide services, not will, but shall provide services and information in negotiation of mineral agreements. The Energy Act of 2005 really does sort of reinforces that whole thing of providing technical expertise to the tribes asking for assistance. We are unique. Okay, we are not a permitting group. We are not related in any shape or form. We do not do permits. Okay, 90% of our senior staff come from energy, come from the private sector. So we have developed projects outside of industry, outside of government. We've developed oil and gas. We've developed minerals. We developed mining, renewable energy. We have done this, and we know all the things that need to occur to get that project online. Okay. Again, we're made up of engineers, scientists, geologists, marketers, economists that will help you get to where you want to go. All right. And this is really sort of centered around the whole thing of where do you want to go? What's your business plan? Where do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish with this kind of stuff? Very much hands-on. We visit tribes on a regular basis. That's if you call us, we generally are there. Pandemic aside, we usually travel quite a bit. Okay. This is where our responsibility lies within it. A tribe, and again, this is all tribally driven. I want to emphasize that. The tribe calls up and says, hey, we're interested in developing a project. We go through resource identification, pre-project development. If the tribe wants to develop it, helping them with negotiations, economics, But finally, when it comes to permitting, that's when we turn it off to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and their group to handle the permitting and the compliance and all. And one of the things that we want to talk about is, when we sit down and talk with a tribe, it's basically, why do you want to develop this resource? What's the reason behind it? And that really does help us give insight on what you're trying to do. And a lot of times they're trying to enhance their sovereignty through economic independence. They want the economic impact of it. Some environmental issues that they want to address. All these things play an important part. It's important to note that we just don't do oil and gas, or we just don't do coal. We do all the energy, okay? So everything related to oil and gas, coal, renewable, hydroelectric, just the whole spectrum of those, coal, the whole spectrum of energy development occurs. In addition to that, we do minerals, which is sand and gravel, and other types of minerals. And generally speaking, a lot of tribes don't equate sand and gravel with energy development. But if you do develop energy, you're going to be building roads. Roads are made up of sand and gravel. So we sort of look at how we can tie in all the tribe's resources and maximize that economic impact on with the tribe. So all their resources, if they're interested, are going forward with it. These are the stages in which we look at and how we work with our tribe. So if a tribe calls us up, we identify what you want to do, long-term goals, priorities. It could be you have high unemployment, you have unreliable service coming into your tribe, you have really bad roads, you have concerns about the environment. There's a lot of reasons why you may be looking at developing this resource. They're your reasons, and they're unique to that tribe, and that's something we respect. And then one of the things that we do is, okay, now that we know what your long-range priorities are, how can we identify resources, or what resources do you have to help you accomplish your goal and your priorities? And that's really what we come down and do. We do feasibility studies. We also, during this whole thing, as we go through the project planning in detail, we sit down and talk about businesses. And often we don't talk enough about businesses because, again, let's take, for instance, Fort Berthold. We helped Fort Berthold start developing their oil and gas in the 2004 level type thing way back when. One of the things we did talk with them about, and we pointed out that if the tribe does get off and going on this, one of the things that they should be also looking at is secondary and tertiary businesses. Okay, people are going to need to eat. People want to buy groceries. People are going to want to buy clothes. People are going to have to stay hotels, that kind of thing. These are all good tribal businesses to get in that keeps the money on that reservation for as long as possible. Okay, and that's helping tribes plan and capacity building, and that's where our sister divisions come into play. We are active on 230 different projects on about 150 different reservations. So if you're on a reservation and you look at that and you see a little pin stuck in there, we're there. And you should ask your tribal leaders, what are we doing? Or you can call us up and ask us what we're doing, and we're more than happy. We go all the way from the state of Maine into Alaska, along the northern range there, all the way down into the Southwest. We are essentially in a lot of different places. So now let's talk about oil and gas. 44 reservations are currently producing oil and gas. There's several more that have the possibility of producing oil and gas, but choose not to. Okay, and on here we have several listing of different tribes that have and the different basins they're in where they are producing oil and gas. Okay, and there's, as I said, 44 of them. So the question is, how important is energy in Indian country? Well, gaming is the #1 money producer in Indian country. Okay, followed very closely by energy production. And this is oil and gas, coal, and renewable energy. And as you can see by the chart, and this is put out by the Department of Interior Economic Report 2019, this one just came out, they're about a year behind, you can see that 83% of all income generated on Indian lands comes from energy development, okay? Whether it's a solar farm coming out there or an oil well coming out there. Energy is so important. And then you can take a look at the impact as far as jobs. Jobs, 60% of all the jobs in Indian country come from energy development. Value added, 81%. Total economic contribution, 78%. And the reason why that total economic contribution is kind of low is that we're not doing a good enough job of helping tribes keeping that money on that reservation before it goes off. You can take a look and see irrigation is the next one, is the closest value there, but that also includes all the jobs and crops that are produced from irrigation waters, just not the sale of water. Timber would be next in there, and that's $50 million, whereas the number up there is $6.63 billion. So it's a big deal. And so when you talk about energy, that's how important it is. So when I sit down and talk about us working as your consultant, the question you would want to know is, how successful has this been? Well, prior to 2004, there was 3 people in the office, basically, and we gave money out. We just gave money to the tribe and said the tribe would call us and say, hey, we'd like to have, we could study our oil and gas, we'd study our coal, and this is what happened. There was not really, what do you do next? So we produced a lot of great reports, a lot of geology was done, engineering studies were done, and we gave them to the tribes, and the tribes, very few of them have energy and mineral offices. And so the question is, what do you do with them? Okay, they didn't know what to do with it. And so we started looking at them and said, okay, we have to get in. And a couple of the tribes asked us, what do we do with this report? And so from that standpoint, we started helping them produce, helping them promote their resources. And it's them promoting us and us supporting them. And you can see how it's taken off with the rise in income, okay? And again, this is us looking at it, but also how does it compare to everybody else? Has everybody else gone up the same way? Well, we compare ourselves to BLM, okay? Tribal Indian lands. Tribal leaders are great at negotiating. They are smart. They know how to negotiate. We just got to give them information. And usually that's what's lacking in this is, tell me the information, give me information, and I can do this. And so the gold bar there really is an indication of where tribes have come to us and said, hey, listen, what happens to us is oil companies will come into our tribal headquarters and they'll set up a meeting and they'll stand in front of us and say, have we got a deal for you? Okay. And basically it's a take it or leave it, or here's what we're proposing to do. And in all honesty, the tribe is fitting into that company's business plan. And so in 2009, 2010, we talked about the different tribes about switching that around. Let's start making it so that these companies fit in your business plan. So what's your business plan? What are you looking to do? What lands do you want to develop rather than leaving it up to the companies to decide what lands for you to develop, or the Bureau of Indian Affairs decide which lands are leased? And so for that reason, we really started working with the tribe and saying, okay, what can we do to help you really fit these companies into what business plan and how you want to grow and where you want to be? And as you can see, we took off again. And so the BLM basically average royalty rate is right around 11.5%. Whereas the average royalty rate for tribes in 2018 is right now just about 17.5%. So it's a good, we beat them by 6 points. And it's really been working out well for the tribes. Again, tribes are great negotiators. They know how to negotiate. It's not a matter of them not having the skill level. They have the skill level. It's just getting them good information. Okay. So what are we working on? Okay. Currently, we're working with these tribes in different levels of economics and different levels of exploration. Okay. We are geologists. We have geologists going out where we're having information, where we don't have information, undefined plays. We're going out and we're shooting seismic. Okay. Through one of our programs, we provide funding to a tribe to go out and shoot seismic. We then process the seismic. We interpret the seismic. We come back with prospect and plays for them and say, here's what we have. What do you think? And that's with all of our tribes. That is how we operate. With some of the involving in economics and define extents. We actually do engineering studies to help these tribes, help the tribes know what's going on with their resources, okay? Now, where does this all end up? Since 2010, we go to the North American Prospect Expo. It's called NAPE. It occurs twice a year. Last year, there was about 16,000 people attending it. And again, we took tribes there. In this case, we took the one coming up here in August. These are the tribal groups that are going to be there. Tribal members are going to be there. We pay for the tribal members to be there. The tribal leaders, whoever the tribe designate as their spokesperson, that's who we have show up there. They're the ones talking. Our job is only to provide technical support to that tribe, okay? And very successful. A lot of the tribes have been really successful, and it varies. Tribes come back and say, well, we don't want to participate. We want to wait a year, whatever. And so we have a constant changing over of who's showing up there and who's not, okay? So let's also talk about what we think is happening with oil. Oil right now, as you've heard, is in the dumpsters right now. It's actually, this is a forecast, and it's actually it was a terribly optimistic forecast. We have another forecast which has us staying at $40 a barrel for the rest of this year, and probably getting up to $60 a barrel or $50 a barrel next year. So it's not a really great times right now for it. And it's not a very oil for oil companies, it's not a great idea. Okay. However, and we also, by the way, sit down and talk with tribes and talk about what the break even is. Okay. This also is information for the tribe. Okay. So in the case of, say, Fort Berthold, when the price of oil was $100 or $60 a barrel, and the break even for the drill was $32 a barrel, that really tells you how attractive your commodity is. Okay, versus if it's $60 a barrel and Crow is coming back at 66, you're probably not going to get a lot of people walking in interested in your land. But this we have done this for all the formations and all the producing tribes in the United States. And any tribe that wants to have this, we provide this to them. This is the average, by the way. And again, the caveat is the average cost, okay? So if you're a small operator, the break-even is going to be a lot lower. If you're a bigger company, the break-even is going to be a lot higher. So we sort of took an average company in there and did that. And this is what we think is an average cost, okay? So what's happening right now? Okay, well, oil producers are in real trouble. They're financially distressed. Oil is below most companies' profitability. They're looking for some way of relief. They're going to the tribes asking for suspension of operations or reducing their production down to a barrel, just enough for it to be economically viable. Okay, and we expect many oil producers to file for bankruptcy, and actually a lot are. So here's the opportunity for a lot of tribes. If the tribe is interested, this is an opportunity for them to get back producing leases. And a lot of tribes are coming back and saying, okay, guys, where are the best producing? We know tribe company ABC is in economic distress right now. And is interested in perhaps selling some of their leases back to us. Is it a good lease or a bad lease? Is there something to look at? And so we do generally run economics for these tribes and say, okay, we've done the engineering stuff, here's our thoughts on the whole process. And so a lot of tribes are actually looking into this kind of an operation. And so this is where we are right now with it, is tribes right now are looking to take back some of the leases, okay? Now, why would they want to do that? Well, if the tribe owns the surface and owns the minerals, 100% owns the minerals, okay? They do not pay state or federal income tax on that production, which really in some states makes a huge difference in some of these things, okay? So for instance, if you're at Fort Berthold, on the bottom, right now I said the break-even price, well price is $32. The break-even for a tribe, one drill the same well, is $21 a barrel. That's a big difference. That's $11 a barrel difference. And so the tribe can perhaps at $40 a barrel make more money at it, drilling and owning it themselves. or owning the operation themselves. The big thing, though, is risk does come into this. This is a really risky business, and it depends on how comfortable you are doing it. For Berthel, as Missouri River Oil Company, that's a tribal company that actually does do all this themselves and is actually looking into doing this right now. Other tribes are looking at that, seeing how the Missouri River, seeing how Southern Ute is doing it, and saying, okay, how are they doing it? And my understanding is they're contacting Southern Ute and saying, how are you doing it? How can we mimic your business structure so that we can set it up the same thing? And so that's kind of the thing that we're looking at right now with a lot of the tribes as we stand right now. Okay. Now, what kind of services we have? These are all available to tribes. Okay. If a company comes and says, hey, we'd like your help here, we'd have to tell them no. We only work with tribes. Tribes are what drives us. If a company comes to us and say, hey, listen, we want you to get us in talking with tribe ABC, we're going to have to tell them no. Again, our allegiance and our everything is with those tribes. Okay. So we're not going to be compromising by recommending a company or looking at a company. They can go talk with, we will give them the name of the people that they should contact within that tribe and let them contact with them. And then the tribe will call us and say, we got contact by company ABC. Here's the deal. What do you think? And we do the economics based on that. We also help the tribes through various programs, as I described it, providing money. The way I generally look at this is that we're the general contractors. We know when things should be occurring. When it happens, if you've ever remodeled a kitchen, which I did, which is not a lot of fun, I can tell you, you want to have a general contractor know when the demo is occurring. Okay, so if they're demoing the area, you don't want the plumber to show up when everybody's doing demo. Okay, there's an order and there's a time when everything comes in. And if you have somebody that's really good at general contracting, everything moves really smoothly. Everything works really great. Okay, and that's really what we do with these programs. So with these programs, we look at and say, okay, you need seismic. Let's give you money and we'll go out, hire a seismic company, have it shoot the data. Or we need detailed geophysical work or geologic work doing this, and this will help out. The NIAGEMS program at the bottom basically is for tribes to help them manage their resources. It's designed specifically for tribes to help them know where their oil wells are, where the lands are leased, which ones are not leased, what the production is, when it's going to not be held by production, and it helps the tribe really manage their leases. This is really what we're after with this whole thing, is helping tribes get a better handle on what's going on, okay? This is who I am, and my Deputy Division Chief, Winter Joel Talbert, are available. If you have any questions, please give us a call. Here's our email address, and more than happy to talk with anybody as they come through. And thank you much.
Thank you, Stephen. Wow, a lot of information there, much more than I thought, and so very, very beneficial, Steve. And so thank you, Mr. Many-Deeds. We appreciate it. I know that you're going to have to sign off soon here, and so we will share this information with others on this webinar. And so great information. I think I have a lot of takeaways, and so we'll certainly be talking after this. So thank you, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you in Navajo. So wonderful. Okay, now let's. I mentioned earlier that we're trying to bring all the pieces together, and so we want to present to everyone on this webinar the tribal side, and I think Mr. Many-Deeds did mention the Southern Ute, and so the Southern Ute for many of us developers and that are involved in energy, see and recognize Southern Ute and what they've done. It's remarkable in the energy sector. So I want to introduce Shane Siebel, and he's the executive director for the Southern Ute Growth Fund. And for many of you that don't know, the Southern Ute Growth Fund is the business arm of the Southern Ute Indian tribe located in Ignacio, Colorado. And basically their charge through Shane is to develop real estate, private equity, energy exploration, production, and midstreams companies. And so all told, what I see here is that Shane and his efforts have basically provided over billions of dollars of resources and revenues to the Southern Ute Indian tribe. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Shane Siebel and welcome Shane, and we're interested in your story. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Derek. Appreciate that. And to Stephen, many deeds, I appreciate the presentation you provided because it's so valuable to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And right now, you know, in the oil and gas sector, primarily in the oil and the gas, it's ugly times, you know, with COVID as it's taken place. But you know, I will share my presentation with everybody. And I just wanted to wish everybody a good morning here in Colorado and good afternoon on other time zones. And thank you, Derek, for providing this invitation to come and speak on behalf of the Southern Ute Indian Tribe and the Southern Ute Growth Fund. We have a great story to tell, and you know, we're open to help other sovereign nations develop their resources and having that conversation of how we did it. Not one size fits all, but you know, we were able to be successful at it and continue to be so. Our vision statement, you know, one of the things that I came on board as executive director is really wanting to tie in, you know, what our vision is. We have a mission statement, but also a vision. What are we continually striving to do? Well, to be the best business in Indian country. That's what we want to do because Indian country is so vast. We're in a global economy. And so that's able to always continue to strive to do. Discipline. We always want to take a disciplined approach. We want to make sure our emotional intelligence is there and that we perform at a high level. We reward our high-performing staff members. We want to make sure that I am constantly pushing myself to be high-performing. And of course, profitable. We have to be profitable to our tribal equity partners. You know, they're not shareholders, they're not stockholders, they're equity partners. So they're investing their dollar into the business as Southern Ute Indian tribal members, and we want to make sure that we provide a margin that's sustainable back to the membership. But also with that profitability, we are making sure we put an emphasis on the people. You know, we're all related, we're all indigenous, we're as a Ute nation, we want to make sure that we emphasize the creator and that how we're connected, not necessarily how we're different, but how we're connected. And of course, the earth in which we serve. That is so important that all of our opportunities come from the earth and tied with expertise from different human forms. We make sure that we always keep the earth in a respectful way. In the beginning, you know, really our tribe's economic success comes from its land. We talked about that, our mineral estate, and really the extraordinary vision of our leaders, of our past leaders that really seen the opportunity and made it happen. So efforts and achievements of our talented employees. We have to go out and actively recruit talent. You know, it doesn't say anything less than us as a people, but we understood that we needed the necessary talent to develop our minerals. Early efforts to develop those minerals while under the BIA really provided little economic benefit to the tribe. We had a really difficult time, you know, moving that forward. So we really assumed the task of managing our resources in self-determination. We wanted to make sure that we came to the table prepared and had the necessary talent to do that. But that took our vision of our leaders. The initial economic improvement was a result of the development of our Indian resources here on the reservation. We understood that we were very blessed with the Fruitland Coal Formation, and at that time, we wanted to develop it ourselves. And with the opportunity to capitalize on the various operators that were operating on the reservation through royalties and severance tax, we were able to build a nice fund to start our Growth Fund. And as you can see, one of the big things that we did is our tribe adopted a financial plan that provided these systems to manage the tribal government and to also create the Growth Fund, which we're 20 years later, we're able to do that. But the vision of our leaders was really all about the separation of government and business. If you ran a government like a business, it's going to fail. If you ran a business like a government, it's going to fail. So our leadership knew that, but they also knew that it was going to be very controversial. But that financial plan really helped lay the groundwork to be able to have that arm's length trust, that arm's length decision-making process for our businesses, because they needed to make decisions quickly and fast, and with the approval of the tribal council at that time to hire the talent necessary and the trust that needed to take place to be able to do that. So that's a very important aspect for us sovereign nations, is understanding not one's better than the other. They're just different from accounting, from operations, from the scope. They just needed to be arm's length separation with that. Today, our Southern Ute tribal memberships is about 1,500 plus members. Our reservation is a little over 300,000 acres. The exterior boundary doubles in size at 681,000. And right now, our tribe is still one of the largest employers in La Plata County, 1,400 employees. So we're a big contributor to our surrounding communities, and with nice paying jobs, with not jobs necessarily, but careers, we're able to have a large voice within our community. As you can see, this is kind of our surface ownership map, mineral ownership. So not only do we have ownership on the reservation, but we also partnered up off the reservation, because now with horizontal drilling, we wanted to make sure that non-tribal operators operating off the reservation, as they went down and horizontally drilled, they were kind of tapping into our mineral estate. And so we partnered up with a lot of them to make sure that we could share in that capture of the minerals. Right now, our Southern Ute organization, really simplistic. We have our Southern Ute tribal membership at the top. They're always the voice of the people, and we got to make sure we have utmost respect for that. They elect our tribal council representatives, and through that tribal council representatives, they manage the Sky Ute Casino, our permanent fund, which is our growth fund, or is our government side. Our growth fund is all our businesses. And then we also recently added our Southern Ute Shared Services. This is really our IT department that really helps us stay where we're at today. Like, we can communicate via teleworking right now, and what we're doing is really goes out to the information gurus, as I like to call them. Here's our mission statement, very simple. The Growth Fund is the business arm of the Southern Ute Indian tribe that exists to grow economic prosperity for the tribe and its members by managing the tribe's businesses responsibly and developing new growth opportunities prudently. A little bit about our history. Back in 2000 is when the Growth Fund was created. We had a financial plan that really enacted our tribal Growth Fund implementation plan to really determine and define our goals and systems of operation, and to really consolidate and manage business activities on the tribe, so that we could all be on the same page. But we needed a really good roadmap, so to speak, not only for authorities, but also how we go and go through the process of creating our businesses and what we do with that. In 2001, we expanded our oil and gas production and midstream businesses on the reservation. We also started a real estate group because we wanted to be diverse. We wanted our portfolio to really reflect that. And, our oil and gas revenues enabled us to do that. We also went off the reservation and began real estate acquisition and development, and also energy production off the reservation, midstream and E&P. Couple of things we did. We formed another midstream off the reservation called ACA, and of course created a private equity fund and a team that could really diversify our portfolio. And then, the Great Recession happened in 2008, and we had to really respond accordingly to that. And those are lessons learned. So as we're going through the COVID pandemic, we're able to better navigate what has taken place. We had the energy pricing downturn in 2016. That also got us into making sure that we have a proper hedging program to get through these things. We have weathered some historic downturns in our energy pricing. Today, our units still operate profitably, and our main thing is increasing our asset base so that it can grow substantially for the next future generations of our tribe. Growth Fund profile today. At one time, we were at 450 employees at the top of it, and we've always had to make sure that we right size our organization due to what has taken place, in 08 and 16, and so we ebb and flow to our size. Right now, we're about 339 employees. We operate in 12 states and in the Gulf of Mexico. We're active in the oil and gas exploration, production, the E&P side of it. We're in the midstream processing gas. Of course, we have a substantial real estate investment now and development, commercial and residential construction at a minimum. We're not really investing a whole lot into that side of the business. Our private equity is still moving forward. Tough times, though, on the market valuations on our private equity, but we're able to get through that. And then, of course, in the Growth Fund, we provide tribal utilities, water, wastewater, natural gas, and our trash pickup. So we have that not as a profit center, but really as a way to reach our members and provide excellent service to them. Just a quick map of where we're at, location of operations. You can see some of the things where we're at. We're on the West Coast and the East Coast, and somewhat in the middle. We have a heavy presence in the state of Texas, and of course in the Gulf of Mexico. Our companies to date, right now, we split into energy and non-energy. On our energy side, we have Red Willow Production Company. They are our E&P side of things. They explore and produce those commodities from the earth, both in the lower 48 and also in the Gulf of Mexico. Red Cedar is our midstream on the reservation only, and our ACA is a midstream off the reservation. We have non-energy in our Growth Fund properties. That's our real estate portfolio, our private equity, of course. And then newly adding to this is what we call our Growth Fund Ventures. That is really looking at other opportunities other than our energy, other than real estate, and other than private equity. We want to be a direct investor. And so we're really excited about this new venture. Our tribal departments, of course, Department of Energy has played a huge successful role in where we're at today. And I'll go into that a little bit later in the presentation. Of course, we have Southern Utilities Division and our local Sky Fairgrounds. I won't go through everything, but Red Willow Production, as you can see, we started out in 1992 with an $8 million investment, very small conservative company. We bought existing conventional wells. That's where I first started my career. Actually was working for Arco Oil and Gas in Farmington, New Mexico. And then I transitioned and was recruited to be the first two lease operators, myself and another tribal member for Red Willow. And so good times, fun times back in the day. Learned a lot of skills on the energy side of the business. Right now, we had a large Samson acquisition that was a local operator on the reservation. We were able to consolidate and purchase those wells, and it became, now we're the second largest producer on the reservation. That's something to be very proud of. We have a number of tribal members that gained employment, gained careers through Red Willow, and are still there, and some have moved on, but they gained a valuable opportunity for tribal employment. Some of the wells that we operate on or near the Southern Ute Reservation, you can see those in the red. So we have quite the portfolio of wells, and primarily the Fruitland coal is all dry gas. So that's that. We started in off-site in 2000, began to use 3D seismic and other highly sophisticated technologies. And of course, we have to hire the staff. We have to really recruit the talent. And that was always a struggle with our membership, because they were like, well, hey, why are you guys paying such high salaries and trying to be competitive? Well, I had to equate it to Denver Broncos, okay, football team. So I used that analogy a lot in the very beginning, saying, well, the Broncos really can't win a Super Bowl unless they go out and hire and compete for the talent. I said, if you're a New England Patriots fan, you wouldn't be able to win what you did without the coach and without the quarterback and without the offensive and defensive line. You got to be competitive. You got to pay them what they're worth to be able to be competitive in that side of things. 2019, we still consider a big, small company. Red Willow has about 135 employees. We're active in Colorado, Texas, Wyoming, and Mexico. We have interest in a little less than 1,900 gas wells, or a little bit more than 1,900 gas wells and oil wells, operating 698 of those wells. And we have proven reserves over 680 billion cubic feet. So we still have quite a bit of reserves in the ground. Hard decisions right now. The ugly side of it is commodity pricing is low. Thankfully, we're hedged to continue a positive cash flow. One of our production platforms that we're an interest owner in is the Delta House. One of our biggest, most successful ventures was Red Cedar Gathering Company. We're a 51% owner in that gathering company, and really it was on reservation, and really they collect all the gas from, not all, but a big majority of all the gas on the reservation from other operators. And quite frankly, Red Cedar has to charge Red Willow, so we have a interesting dynamic relationship there. But Red Cedar has been a huge, just a wonderful investment for the Southern Ute Indian tribe. Great company. Right now, we're kind of on the downhill slide of our Fruitland coal production, and so in order for a midstream to be successful, they got to have volumes. And so with those volumes declining, we're always looking what we're going to do next. For me as the executive director, I want to get to the burner tip. We're on the EMP, we're on the midstream, but I want to be able to create energy on the burner tip. So we have that in the works. Some of our Red Cedar facilities, there's 195 miles of pipeline that connect 1,200 wells on the Southern Ute Reservation. We have 25 compressor stations with about 150,000 horsepower. And then we do central treating at what we call our Arkansas loop. And so we really want to bring all the gas to that loop, and then we offload it to other operators. Just a simple map of our Red Cedar system throughout the reservation. So we hold this dear, making sure that our pipelines are secure, they were put in correctly, and that our health and safety of our reservation and our members and our community members is first and foremost. This gives a little timeline energy group that we purchased since we had an expertise of midstream. We went out and purchased midstream companies off the reservation, and we still have a great presence in that. We've sold one of our compressor sites, gathering sites, so we're down to one. And the one that we sold was the Empire Abo Gas in New Mexico. So right now we're really focusing our other plant, which is the Kersey compressor station and the Gilcrest plant in Northeast Colorado. ACA has also been a very profitable midstream company for us, and the expertise is doing very well there. The next one, which enabled us to really diversify our portfolio from our energy side, was we needed to venture into real estate. This is the other place that I then went to from oil and gas, and then was able to gain an opportunity to get into the real estate side of the portfolio. And right now, they manage and acquire commercial and office properties. That's really gone away. Thankfully, our leadership within our real estate portfolio had seen that years ago, and we were able to really get out of that. Thankfully, Amazon, buying online, commercial and office properties are really going away. What we've really gone into is our light industrial, our industrial portfolio, our multifamily has really done well. Mixed use, we've somewhat changed that portfolio a little bit to maximize what has taken place today. Like I said, Amazon and really purchasing things online have changed how people buy retail. Our land development, still have a couple land developments, a large one in Denver called Candelas. We're just about sold out. That one's been a wonderful development project for us. And then, of course, we have a local Three Springs development. And so we're changing our philosophy a little bit. We want to make sure that land development has kind of moved to the not going to do that anymore. Lessons learned. It takes a long time horizon with a lot of capital. We're still active in 11 states. We employ a methodical approach to evaluate opportunities and an aggressive approach to asset management. So we have several partners that help us manage our assets all across the country. Here's some of the places that we're in. I talked about the multifamily. Office has really slowed down a little bit, but our industrial portfolio has really gained some momentum. We want to be able to provide places for storage of goods. We're on the East Coast and now we're on the West Coast. We have some strategic locations in the Midwest. And so that one's done very well. We do own a hotel in Spring Hill Suites by Marriott in Oceanside, California. So if you're in Oceanside, please stop by, use our motel. We'll take great care of you. Of course, land development, we still have a couple projects that we're finishing up. Just a little bit of representation. We talk about our industrial portfolio. Those are great buildings in great locations. Some of the things we talked about, Candelas, that's one of our largest land developments, over 1,800 lots sold. So we're really getting close to closing out and finishing up that project. It's come out wonderful. Families are happy in a great location. Three Springs, this talks about our local development project. This is where we were able to come in and really make a presence within our community, build something that's going to be there for a very, very long time. The highest construction scope of work. We wanted to make sure and do it because we're neighbors, and everybody's quite impressed with that. So if you're ever down in our neighborhood, come check it out. Some of the things that we have, we own some city blocks, 5 city blocks in Oceanside, California, close to the beach, close to the pier in Oceanside. And so we've done some development there, apartments, and of course our Spring Hill Suites, and still have 2 vacant city blocks there. So if anybody's interested and they want to get to Oceanside, we'd be willing to make you a heck of a deal on those. Our private equity, we always look at buyout, mature into profitable businesses. Of course, some of our investments, of course, have been hit hard by COVID. If you're invested in the restaurant business or in the weight room business, you took a hit. And so we're managing through that and making sure that we're going to get on the other side of it and come out profitably. This is our new one, GF Ventures. Our mission is to really look at long-term value, enhance tribal member equity by really diversifying into other areas of investment. We want a direct investment into new industries and the markets. We're looking at healthcare. We're looking at IT. We're looking at all sorts of those things to really enhance our overall portfolio. A little bit more about GF Ventures, building long-term value for the tribe. One of the things I wanted to get into really quick was Department of Energy as I finish out the presentation. This was our tribal department that really managed our energy development operations on the Southern Ute Tribe. They provided technical and environmental support, and it really provided operators with tribal approval on all energy projects within the reservation. So they really work as the frontline entity for all operators. I want to be able to exercise and buy wells within the reservation. They would go through Department of Energy. Our Department of Energy will BIA and BLM to support their approval process on tribal land. So that really helped out that process. Sometimes a sovereign nation can go into the BIA. It could take years. Well, we created our own Department of Energy to kind of make that process and to help BIA and BLM through that. They work with regulatory agencies. They're really our intermediary between the tribe and the regulatory agencies for energy development. So they were huge in how we ended up where we're at today. Through royalties and severance tax, they were kind of the collector of that, and it created a huge opportunity to move where we're at today. DOE exercises the tribe's sovereign authority and has taken much of the responsibility for managing its mineral resources with federal trust concurrence. That was a huge deal for us as Southern Utes. Not only, number one, creating a financial plan. Number two is knowing that we have to separate business and government. Not one's better than the other, but we had to separate that. And then the creation of our Department of Energy to really exercise our sovereign authority. The Growth Fund's future. Our earnings have really grew from nominal levels in 2000, and we are expecting continued growth, even through the COVID. There's opportunities, where we see one roadblock in low commodity pricing. We're able to, really refocus our free cash flow into other opportunities that make themselves available. So we have to be real nimble on that. We continue to focus on our core competencies in the areas of oil and gas exploration. We're still an oil and gas company and we're good at it, but we got to be mindful of where we go with that. We're good at the midstream operations. We have a great team in the real estate investment side of things, and our private equity team is really talented as well too. We continue to expand and generate an income stream for our tribal members. So that's one of the things that we provide to our equity partners, our tribal members. They give us $1, we give them $1 with a margin on it, and we make sure that we are providing them a distribution so that they feel like they're whole in it. So if you invest in Apple, I would like a cash return on that. I'd like to see some sort of benefit. So we make that income stream. We want to keep that equitable because we want to grow. We're a growth fund. So if our businesses are not growing, we're dying. So we want to make sure that we grow our asset base at all times. And we are continuing to build a reserve of financial strength for our future generations of our Southern Ute tribe. You know, with the eye on the prize, we still need to grow our assets. We need to manage our expenditures, and we need to really maximize our return to our tribal membership. And so with that, that concludes my presentation from the Southern Indian Tribal Growth Fund. Sorry for running a little bit late on this, but I wanted to make that available. I'm available to provide this presentation. You know, I will leave my email address with you, Mr. Watchman, and Elizabeth, to make sure that it's accessible. So with that, thank you, and I'll turn it on over to you guys.
Thank you, Shane, and we appreciate your, wonderful, robust presentation. And so, and also thank the leadership of the Southern Ute Indian Tribe. And so, yeah, a lot of good work that you're doing. And so that, the presentation that Shane provided obviously provides, a lot of insight into, the trials and tribulations, but all the positives that can happen if tribes work together. And so some of the things that I gleaned from Shane's presentation is obviously development, especially in the tribal sector, is very, very holistic. He mentioned Mother Earth, and he mentioned the tribal members. Basically it's a conglomeration of all the parts and pieces. And so tribal development is very holistic. And so you got to keep in mind, all the players. He also mentioned just being adaptive and basically, keeping your eye on the market so that they can amass, significant assets that return revenue, and basically revenue that funds the Southern Ute Indian Tribe. So thank you, Shane. Very, very good presentation. And so our two presentations obviously have been very, very insightful. And so we basically had information from the federal partners, a shining example, the Southern Ute Tribe. And so now I want to turn over the time to Joseph Micheletti, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Westmoreland. And Westmoreland is an energy coal mining company. And Joe was telling me he's located in Montana. And so Joe has been with Westmoreland for over 20 years. And so this part of our webinar, we want to present, the private side, because as I said earlier, one of the keys to development is making sure you have the right partners. And so in the case of energy development on Indian lands, you certainly need the tribes, you need, private companies, and also assistance and support from the federal government. And so without further ado, Joe, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Derek. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
And I do have my presentation up and you can see it.
Right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, tall task to follow Shane. What an impressive growth story, a growth story of the Southern Ute Growth Fund. Very, very impressive. On the first page, you'll see the seals of 4 tribes or nations that, we either work on the reservation and or, with them as neighbors, or possibly, mine their mineral resources. When I was reflecting back and preparing this presentation, I guess we could sit here and we could talk about all the great things, that we think as a company that we've done. We do make contributions, generous contributions and stuff to our tribal partners, to our neighbors, and we are supposed to do that. But as I reflect back on this, I've been at Westmoreland for 23 years, and I think we've really been enriched by our relationships with our tribal friends. And, we just have an exceptional relationship and friendship that we've had. It started with the Crow in 1972. So we have a 5-decade relationship here, and we really hope that we can do all the things to, go another 50 years. But I have to tell you, as a company, as a person, that the things that we've learned through these relationships and friendships is we've learned a lot how to care, how to share, just how deep family and kinship can be to a society and to a group. A lot of humility, how to be humble, and respect. And on the family kinship side is when you work along the sides of the tribal folks, you really see how deeply they care for their family members. And it's, you'll hear conversations where they're talking about their fifth or sixth cousin, and that the family roots are deep and they're very, very close. Lots of respect that you will be tutored on and learned, as you with these relationships with the tribal nations. Strong respect for their elders, family, culture, for Mother Earth. And I think that's one thing you really learn is how to cherish and care for Mother Earth. And the land isn't something that is of value. The land is just the essence of life, and that's where the food comes from and everything. And so there's just such a strong care for the land. I think looking at our banner down there at the bottom is that I just kind of want to expand on that. Westmoreland holds our tribal relationships with the highest regards, and our values are highly aligned. Quite frankly, I'd say some of our values as a company were adopted from these relationships. In mining, in the heavy industry world, it obviously starts about uncompromised safety. And that's your personal safety, and that's the safety of your coworker. And at our operations, in which we are on reservations, nearby reservations, we have incredible safety culture. And I think what underpins the safety culture at these operations is coworker safety, and just looking after each other and taking care of your buddy, your pal, your coworker. And I think that really helps get everybody, home safe each and every other shift. Obviously, a tremendous duty of care. You have to go with an element of employee enrichment. And how can you make it better? How can you make their life better? How can you create an opportunity for people to grow and provide? Is one of the things I think is very important. I think it's a value that would align that we have as a company, and that values that we've seen and learned with our tribal relationships. Environmental stewardship, again, caring for the land, mine reclamation. At the bottom of the page, the slide, you see some reclamation at our Absolica mine, and in 2017, May of 2017, we had Vice President Pence, then Secretary Ryan Zinke, and Montana Senator Steve Daines out to the mine. And why they picked our Absolica mine is the picture that we're looking at. I'm not really sure, but they really did pick a good one. And I thought, it really exemplifies, this is reclaimed land. This is land that has been mined and reclaimed to a condition as good, if not better, than pre-mining. And so May of 17, Vice President Pence, and then also all the executives and legislators, of the Crow Nation came out to the mine, and we did a mine tour on horseback. And it was just one of the best days that I had in my career, is to be able to bring all those groups together, right up to the top of a hill on horseback, and look over at the vast lands and where we had mined and where we had reclaimed the land back to a better shape. So for us at Westmoreland, we've substantially gained from our enrichment and our relationships with our tribal partners. Here's the locations where we're at. I'm going to start up north, up in Canada, in Alberta. We have 5 operations, and we have our Obed, our Coe Valley, our Genesee, our Paine Earth, and our Sheerness operations in Alberta. I'll touch on that here in a little bit further in the presentation, but there's 5 operations in Alberta that we have to work closely with the First Nation groups in Canada. In Saskatchewan, we have 2 operations, our Estevan operation and our Poplar River operation, just along the border of the US and Canada. In Montana, we have our Absolica mine, which is partially on the Crow Reservation. And then also we've mined a considerable amount of coal on the ceded strip. So all the coal at the Absolica mine is the mineral interest is held by the Crow, and we mine it there. It's very near Hardin, Montana. North of the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation is our coal strip Rosebud operations. This operation's been, we've been in, in the late 60s. It goes back a little bit further than that, where we were mining coal for steam locomotives. But we formed a very strong relationship with the Cheyenne in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation as well. Then over in New Mexico, or down in New Mexico, I should say, we have the Navajo Nation to the west and the south of our sand mine operations, and then obviously the Ute Mountain Ute Reservation just north. So we've, our experience, since we purchased the San Juan mine has been nothing but spectacular with these groups as well. Our Absolica mine, we started out there in 1972 is when it was originally the Westmoreland Resources was formed. Now it's Westmoreland Absolica Mining LLC, and broke ground in 1972. So we've been out there for 48 years, and let's call it 50. So we've had a 50-year relationship, a 50-year marriage, if you would, with the Crow. And I was having a conversation with my good friend CJ Stewart this morning, and we were kind of talking about and paralleling that it's like a marriage. There's a lot of, we need to talk a lot, we need to communicate a lot. We always can find a way to work things out when we do that. And I think the other thing that I would have to say is, I spent a lot of time working at this operation and with this operation, is that we never give up on each other. And that's really what a true business partnership is. Everybody has needs. You got to find ways for win-wins so that everybody's needs can be met, and everybody wins, everybody benefits. At Absolica, our first unit train went out July 1st of 1974 to the Sherburne County Generating Station in Becker, Minnesota. Back then, that power plant was built specifically for Absolica coal, and they're still the largest customer that we have at that mine. Most of our mining operations at Westmoreland are mine mouth, where the mine's right immediately adjacent to the power plant. But Absolica, all of our coal is either railed, if we do truck a little bit of coal to a little power plant near Hardin, Montana. So we would call it a export mine, but it's not an international, it's a U.S. export operation where most all the coal goes back to the Midwest. Again, all the mineral coal rights are held by the Crow on and off the reservation, on the reservation, ceded strip, and et cetera. Our employment out there is 122 people in total, and right at 79% are Crow or Native American employees. we have worked really hard over the last several years in promoting up through the ranks, operators, mechanics and stuff, provided training. And now we have the majority of our supervisors are also Crow at the Absolica mine. So it's really been fun to watch on how all these employees, given the opportunity, how they have developed, how they have some voice and some control of their destiny and their future, at the coal mine. It's been a great experience. And, these guys were, running a truck or a loader 5 or 10 years ago. Now they're running the show. A little bit more on our Crow mine. Again, we started shipping coal in '74. I think some things that I want to point out on this slide. We've shipped over 200 million tons of coal over the course of time. That's a lot of coal. And then since 2000, we just went back to 2000, and there's been 325 million of taxes and royalties paid to the Crow. And we worked really hard at Westmoreland. I would say I wasn't around back then, but to make sure that the royalties, the taxes, the benefit of those minerals went to the Crow. So the 12.5% federal royalty goes to the Crow. The 15% severance tax that imposed in Montana also goes to the Crow. It doesn't go to the state. So it's really great to see, and we worked arm in arm with the Crow to really make sure that happened, and that the royalties, the taxes, and et cetera went to the right people. About half of those production taxes and royalties, the collections, go out to the membership of the Crow tribe, and another half is used by the Crow tribal government to run their government and manage everything down in Crow country. And that continues 3 times a year. They take a portion of the production taxes and royalties and or the severance taxes, and they disperse it to their members. So it's always a great day, for the Crow when the per cap comes out. I'm just pleased that we can play a little part of that. The Northern Cheyenne tribe, which is we are just north at the Rosebud mine of the Northern Cheyenne tribe. And really our relationship started with the Northern Cheyenne in the late 70s, early 80s. And units 1 and 2 at the Colstrip Steam Electric Generating Station were built in the early 70s. 3 and 4 were built in the early 80s, 83, 84-ish. And so in 1980, the then Montana Power Company and the Northern Cheyenne tribe got together, and they signed an innovative settlement agreement, in that what the tribe really wanted was to maintain what sometimes is called pristine air quality standards for the reservation. So the reservation was, by the EPA, was deemed a Class 1 air quality region. So I think, what became of that is when units 3 and 4 in Colstrip were built, they were built with state-of-the-art emissions technology, at that point in time. And the other things, there was a lot of other things that, that were, negotiated with the Cheyenne, so that it could be a very positive thing for them as well. And a couple of those are, preferential hiring and training through the TERO, the Tribal Employment Rights Office. We established transportation where busing would travel about the 30 miles south. And for the folks that worked at the power plant and or the mine, we provide transportation. Donated, at the onset to start a bank in Lame Deer, Montana, which is on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. Provided funding to enhance the law enforcement down there. And I think one of the things that's really worked exceptionally well for everybody at Colstrip is we have a full-time mine liaison that really keeps the communication channels open for the mine and the tribe. So that person, on site each day, full time, and does a really great job. And then I think another win-win for everybody is over the course of time, there's been 100 full ride college scholarships provided by the mine and the power plant to Northern Cheyenne members. And these folks now, over the course of time, have gone to school, got college education, and they work for us, and they're some of our senior leaders at our Colstrip Rosebud mine. Down at Colstrip, we have 60 employees that are Native American employees, and like I said, it's been a great relationship, friendship with the Cheyenne. And in the picture, we see Bitsy, Horace Small, and he's one of our reclamation supervisors. And how fitting is that? Certainly, just culturally, how much, all y'all and, us included, care for the land, and Bitsy leads the charge for us down there at the Colstrip. The next relationship or the next operation that we work closely with is at our San Juan mine. The Navajo Nation and the Ute Mountain Ute tribe. I'm sure several of you on the phone know the history there. Westmoreland came to San Juan in 2016 when we bought the operation from BHP. The mine has been there since 1973. Started off as a surface mine, and then it was converted to an underground mine in 2001. I think one of the things that I really see that shines through when I get the opportunity to go down to the San Juan operation is the environmental stewardship really aligns with our cornerstone value. At Westmoreland, the people down there have done a phenomenal job on reclaiming the, obviously today we're underground, but reclaiming the old surface mines, the Pinion Pit, and things are really looking exceptional down there. I think one of the other things is that there was some really innovative thinking and good thinking by both our customers and in the design of the San Juan operation, is that the ash that is after it goes through the power plant is placed in one of the old dragline pits of the surface mine. It's encapsulated there, and so you don't have a large tailings pond or a large water consumption, in that it's essentially a dry refuse facility there as we put the ash in the old dragline pits. Again, our neighbors to the southwest, Navajo, and to the north, the Ute Mountain Utes. We have 166, 61% of the employees at San Juan are Native American. And I think, the thing that's most exciting to us is that we really are hoping that we can continue the relationship going forward with carbon capture technology at San Juan for the San Juan generating station. We're partnered with a group, Enchant Energy. And really, the thing that's neat about this is a true public-private partnership, P3, that we got the city of Farmington, we got the Consolidated School District, we got Westmoreland, Enchant Energy, and everybody's trying to pull together to really get carbon capture at San Juan. And for us as a coal mining company, I don't know, maybe we're a little bit different than some of the others, is that we really feel that carbon management, carbon capture has got to be part of the plan for fossil fuels going forward. And so we are really highly active, highly engaged in that. You know, we don't own the power plant, but obviously we have a big stake in the game, being the coal provider. And so we're very excited, eager to help develop that technology, get carbon capture to San Juan. As we sit here today, if we had carbon capture that, you know, on San Juan Power Station, the emissions would be 70% lower than natural gas. Obviously, that would be a natural gas plant that doesn't have carbon capture on it, but it'd be 70% lower. And that's making the assumption about just 90% of all carbon would be captured with that system. And of course, one of the things that we certainly want to do is we want to continue to provide, you know, numerous, you know, jobs for the very talented, high-skilled workforce that we have down there at San Juan. A large portion of those folks, obviously, you know, from the Navajo Nation. That workforce, those people have a tremendous amount of pride in their mind, and they're very, very talented, very skilled. When you look at, you know, a lot of the KPIs that we look at in the mining sector, for an underground operation, San Juan is always at the top of the heap on for an underground coal mine in their safety performance. Their safety culture's strong. The mine is just so well kept. It's incredibly well kept. The final reclamation is exceptional. So we really are working hard to keep the ball rolling down there in San Juan. Next slide, I just want to touch on a little bit is in Canada. You know, there's several tribes that we work with: the Alexis, Nakota, the Sucker Creek Foothills, Agabaywe, Ochis, or Minskin, Whitefish Lake, Paul First Nation, lots of them. And a little bit different for those of you who may not know, in Canada, I think there's a lot more rights and treaty rights that are on reservation lands, but in Canada, it's all lands. And so federally, we're required to consult with First Nations on, you know, any mining operation, reclamation work that we may be doing up there. And I would say very typical with all the values and cultural values of the tribes and the nations is that land use is very, very important. Reclamation is very, very important to them on, you know, what we're going to do with the land and reclaim it and et cetera. And I think it's even another thing that's a little bit more heightened when we work with the tribal groups or the First Nation groups up in Canada is a fishery habitat. Land and water, you really hear a whole lot. Of course, I mean, they're blessed with a lot of fisheries where they're located, but anyhow, all things for land use in Canada, that would be Alberta, Saskatchewan. Then we work with many First Nations groups up there. Yeah, I'd like to close on with, you know, I just want to, and you all have a little bit of fun with me, but I have been working really hard on my pronunciations. And I just want to tell you all thank you. Aho, naish, ahiha, and dwayhak. And hopefully I didn't do too bad on there. But anyhow, you know, it's been so enriching for Westmoreland. It's been just a great friendship, partnership, and I hope our partnership goes for another 50 years. And I just love the bottom right picture. You can see some of our activities and just the smile on Tink. This is Darden Cabales is on his face. And that's what we experience at these mines every day. And when I talk about in cultural enrichment, there isn't a mine, there isn't a work area for us that's funner to be at than one of our mines that's located and has a high employment level of Native Americans. There's a great sense of humor. You have lots of fun, very, very talented and skilled people. And kind of like we talked about, the attributes of, humanity and caring for each other and stuff really, really shines through. So for us at Westmoreland, we really feel like these relationships, we've received a lot. That's all I have.
Thank you, Joe. That's thank you in Navajo. And so wonderful presentation. And so we've had 3 presentations, all with great information. And so a lot of new information for me. And we have a lot of plans following this webinar. And so the information will certainly be available. I'd like to now turn the time over who's going to wrap this all up, and that's Steve Gray. And Steve Gray is an old friend of mine. He and I are both former affairs directors for the U.S. Department of Energy. Steve right now is chairman of the board for the Farmington Development Inc. out of Farmington, New Mexico. Steve also spent many years with the Lawrence Livermore Labs out of California. And so, Steve, the floor is yours, and wrap it up for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. First of all, I want to thank everyone, that joined us today. I want to thank the Department of Energy for all of their support they have given us in starting these webinar seminars, as well as all of our speakers. This was our first session, and I want everyone that's on the line to know that we will have webinar 2 that will be coming up. So we're right now, the process is laying out the groundwork of how we're going to do this. And again, just thanks for the Department of Energy's support in all this. So one of the things that you heard today, and you'll know, it's all about economic development in our regions. It's all about jobs for our people, our Indian people. And it will come in all forms. And that's what we're saying. So what we're asking all of the participants is, what's next? Well, the first thing we need is feedback from each of you. This is very important. It's very important we hear from each and every one of you so that we then know what is it best to shape the information back to the tribes and to the industry partners and to the government that will best work. So one of the things that we envision is that we're going to break up into regions, and we're going to break it up, the discussion for tribal energy, into regional topics. And the reason we do that is because it's so vast, it's so big, everything is very different in every region that we talk to. And so what Derek and we've talked about is how best would we strategically support and facilitate this effort with the support of the Department of Energy. And so we're laying the groundwork right now that we're going to have to break it up into regions to do that. The target is going to be the tribes, industry, and the government. So, and what we really want is we want in the local areas, we want people to start to work and talk and communicate about how best to do that. So as Derek mentioned, I am the chairman of the Four Corners Economic Development Group here in the Four Corners region. We have several tribes in our region, and we've reached out to all of them and started to work with them and look at what are their efforts, what are their goals, and what can we do to help facilitate that. Just in San Juan County alone, here in the Four Corners, we have over 5,000 businesses that we interface with and work with. And so out of that, you've got some big projects that we've gotten engaged with. And we're very fortunate that we have here an institution called the San Juan College School of Energy. And so it's really our basis of how we're working and launching a lot of these things. So for example, the area region, they told us we want a railroad into this region. So we've begun the process of looking at how could we do that. Westmoreland talk about the sequestration project that they're doing. So we've gotten behind them and started to work with them. The San Juan Basin, like other areas across the country and other region, is very rich in resources, in energy resources. And so we're starting to expand that and look at all types of energy. What can we capitalize? But it begins with each of us, begins with each of you in your region. And so we're there, we're going to be here to help you and to work with you. And so we just thank you again for joining us and participating and giving us your input. I saw a number of texts coming and emails coming. That's what we want to do. We want to shape this so that it best benefits you in your areas, in your regions. So again, I just thank you on behalf of the webinar session that we did here today, Derek and I, and there will be more to come. And so we want to reach out and talk with each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Derek?
Okay, thank you, Steve. And also thank you to Michelle Littlefield and Mike Moore and others with the United States Energy Association. Also, Jordan Clark, who's been working with us. He's with Tier Energy, and of course, our sponsor, the Department of Energy. And so this will conclude the webinar. We will be planning webinar 2. We're hoping in the next 30 days to expand on what we learned here today. But as Steve mentioned, the primary focus is having conversation, hopefully candid conversation on Indian energy development. And so the focus obviously is the fossil fuel side, because many tribes still have those resources in abundance that potentially need to be developed, so that at the end of the day, as Steve pointed out, the creation of jobs and economic development and wealth and revenue for our tribal governments. And so if you look back at Steve and Menedeed's presentation, energy is, other than gaming, is one of the highest revenue producers for tribes. And so, that's obviously, a striking example of the dependence that tribes have right now with energy. And so, but without development, we know that without energy, development is hard pressed. And so I know we're running a little bit behind, but thank you, Michelle, for giving us a little bit more time. And so with that, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Real good information. This session will be available on the United States Energy Association's website. Some of the presentations are available. We have on the screen the contact information for Steve Gray and myself. And then, of course, if you want information, in particular, have questions, we're all available, including our speakers. And so they're gracious enough to be available. And so with that, I want to say thank you very much. And until webinar number 2, you guys have a great day. Be safe. And as I've been told, wear your mask. And so thank you, everybody. And go on air. Thank you.